We will now hear from a member of our faculty selected by the graduating class to address all of us today, Professor Barbara Holden-Smith. Professor Holden-Smith joined the Cornell Law School faculty in 1990 after graduating from the University of Chicago Law School. Before joining the law school, she clerked for the Honorable Ann Williams of the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Illinois, and then joined the Washington, D.C. law firm of Arnold & Porter, where she worked in litigation, antitrust, and food and drug law. Here at Cornell, Professor Holden-Smith teaches courses on conflicts, on federal courts, and definitely on civil procedure. She also serves as the law school's vice dean. On a personal note, I want to say how much I've enjoyed working with her in this role over the last 6 years, and before that as the associate dean, and how much I've learned from her. What not everyone knows is the amazing work Professor Holden-Smith has done in the last 10 years studying and promoting cross-cultural legal education. Much of this work has been through the International Association of Law Schools, where she serves as General Secretary and board member. In addition, she's helped secure a number of exchange agreements between Cornell and foreign law schools. For 5 years, she directed the Cornell Summer Law Institute in Suzhou, China. She's taught in our Paris summer program. She's offered a course in Argentina on international litigation. And she's worked with our Avon Global Center for Women and Justice on the Lawyers Without Borders Judicial Training Project. These projects and others have taken Professor Holden-Smith in the last 10 years to China nearly a dozen times, India 4 times, South Africa several times, but also to Vietnam, Chile, Argentina, France, England, Italy, Liberia, Ghana, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Singapore, Estonia, Ireland, Russia, Thailand, Kenya, Uganda, and Nigeria. She goes to Malaysia on Monday. Please join me in welcoming Professor Barbara Holden-Smith.
Good afternoon. On behalf of my colleagues, greetings and congratulations to the Cornell Law School class of 2014. And I want to extend a very warm welcome to the families and friends of our graduates. Class of 2014, you have the honor of being the last law school class that will graduate from Cornell during the tenure of Stuart Schwab as our dean. Stuart has served with great distinction for more than 10 years. I believe I speak for my colleagues, the students, and our alumni around the world in saying that his leadership will be greatly missed. And so I ask you to join me in a round of applause to thank Stuart Schwab for his time as dean and for his leadership. I want to, too, begin by saying Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers who are present. Not only the mothers who sit here so proudly today as you witness this milestone in the lives of your sons and daughters who have fulfilled not only their own dreams of completing law school, but perhaps your dreams for them as well. And not just the mothers who sit here on the stage with me, women I have come to respect deeply, not just for their brilliance and professionalism, but also for the jobs they do as mothers, raising their own children while excelling in a demanding career. More importantly, I wish to express my admiration for those of you in the class of 2014 who are yourselves mothers or fathers. I don't know how you did it. Of course, I too went to law school, and I know how hard you had to work, that you had to try to perform your best in the classroom and on examinations after having had little sleep most of the time. How difficult it is to maintain a semblance of a healthy and balanced life while trying to fit 20 hours of classes and study into a 24-hour day. I did not have to raise my child while I was in school, but if I had, I seriously doubt that I could have done what those of you who are parents have accomplished by completing law school. So I want to say a special congratulations to the mothers and fathers in the class of 2014. Your time as students at Cornell is nearly at an end. I will miss many of you. Indeed, saying goodbye to each class of law students is one of the hardest parts of my job as a teacher, but it is also one of the most rewarding because I am confident that we, the members of the faculty and staff, are graduating a superbly educated group of young men and women, many of whom will leave here and make a real difference in the world. As I said to you during orientation when you first came to us, Cornell is a great law school. And one of the most important reasons it is a great law school is because of you. Yes, we have some of the best legal scholars and teachers in the world on our faculty. Yes, we have administrators who have a wealth of experience and perform their responsibilities with creativity, compassion, and a high degree of professionalism. Yes, we are privileged to be located on one of the most beautiful college campuses in the world, and we are part of Cornell University, one of the world's great research institutions. And yes, as you have seen during your time here, you have had opportunities to engage in a vast array of academic experiences outside the classroom. Every week there have been guest lecturers, workshops, and conferences that have exposed you to world-class scholars who have discussed with you some of the most important and interesting topics of our times as related to law, to society, and to legal institutions. And this, in addition to the rich range of intellectual resources and opportunities provided by the larger university. All these things make Cornell a great law school. But again, our greatest asset, in my view, is our student body. As I said to you at orientation, I think that what makes Cornell students unique is a sense of community which you create here. When I was making my decision to go to law school more than 30 years ago, I knew that one career I might pursue would be as a law professor. However, not too far into my first year, I began to really question whether such a career would be wise, because I found that I did not like law students. I found too many of my classmates to be arrogant, competitive, and lacking in some pretty fundamental social skills that help make us all tolerable to each other. And so I thought that perhaps law teaching would not be in the cards for me. But as fate would have it, eventually I did decide to try teaching and ended up here at Cornell. From my very first class, I knew that Cornell students were different from the students with whom I had gone to law school. Both inside the classroom and outside of it, I could sense the spirit of a community, that rather than seeing themselves as in competition with each other, the students saw themselves as all in this together. In class, you belie the stereotype of the competitive law student and were actually polite to and supportive of each other. Sometimes I was frustrated by this behavior. As many of you know, I am not always the most gentle person during my questioning in class. Indeed, during my first year of teaching, which was 1990, I taught a small section of civil procedure. Most of my evaluations from the students were quite positive, but there's one comment I will never forget. I did not decide to spend $20,000 a year, the student wrote on the evaluation, just to be scared to death by you every day. My evaluation since then suggests that I have learned to tone it down somewhat, but I am still a work in progress. And I have learned a great deal from you. Because of the respect you have shown to each other in my classes, I have learned from you that the classroom could be a place of intellectual rigor, while at the same time being a place where humility is equally on display. I am grateful to you for the lesson. Today may seem like an ending to you, the end of your legal education, but it can't be. It is merely a passage from one phase of your life to another, for your education should never stop. To me, the desire to know, to learn, to understand is the most unique aspect of being human. Indeed, I would not be standing here today if not for that drive within me, that drive to know, to learn. I was the second of 5 children born to a teenage single mother. By the time I was 6, the government of the District of Columbia had taken us away from our mother, and by the time I was 9, she had died. My brother, sisters, and I then were raised in a federal government housing project by our great-grandparents, neither of whom had ever gone beyond the 3rd grade. My siblings never left the Washington, D.C. area until well into their adulthoods, and to this day they continue to struggle to maintain a toehold on the lower rungs of the middle class. I alone made it out, and I got to see the larger world. Not because I was smarter or harder working or more virtuous than any of them, but because I was luckier and because I loved learning. School was my haven from the chaos of home, and the public library was my temple. Many of you came here to pursue a degree so that you could join a profession, but I believe that you would not have had the opportunity to come here, and you would not have succeeded in being able to sit here today about to graduate if you too did not love the life of the mind. I hope you will never lose the desire to know, to understand, because if you lose that desire, you will have lost a vital part of your humanity. I think that the purpose of a good legal education should be the same as the purpose of any education. My most important hero as a teenager was the writer, civil rights activist, and humanitarian James Baldwin, who, as he would say, just happened to be Black, just happened to be male, and just happened to be gay. I had the great privilege of meeting Baldwin when I was a judicial law clerk, and he was given a lecture at the University of Chicago shortly before his death in 1987. Baldwin was not himself a teacher by trade, but he taught me and countless others through his books and essays. Indeed, because of him, I learned of the power of writing to change, if not the world, at least the life of a young person who is otherwise without much hope. Baldwin had the following to say about education. It would seem to me that when a child is born, if I am that child's parent, it is my obligation and high duty to civilize that child. A human being is a social animal who cannot exist without society. A society, in turn, depends on certain things which everyone within that society takes for granted. Now, the crucial paradox which confronts us here is that the whole process of education occurs within a social framework and is designed to perpetuate the aims of that society. The paradox of education is precisely this. As one begins to become conscious, one begins to examine the society in which one is being educated. The purpose of education, finally, is to create in a person the ability to look at the world for him or herself, to make one's own decisions, to say to oneself, this is Black or this is white, to decide for oneself whether there is a God in heaven or not, to ask questions of the universe and then to learn to live with those questions is the way one achieves one's identity. But no society is really anxious to have that kind of person around. What societies really, ideally want is a citizenry which will simply obey the rules. If society succeeds in this, that society is about to perish. That is the real paradox. The obligation of anyone who thinks of himself or herself as responsible is to examine society and try to change it, and to fight it no matter what the risk. This is the only hope society has. This is the only way it changes. My own hope is that we at Cornell Law School have done our jobs and have encouraged you to spend your lives asking questions of the law, of society, of yourselves, and of your values. For there is much work that needs to be done to make America a more just and humane society. There is indeed much work to be done beyond our territorial boundaries to bring about simple justice in the world. As citizens, I believe you will likely live a much richer life if you commit yourselves to playing a role in making society more decent and fair. As a lawyer, you would likely have a very hard time to avoid participating, for our profession is one that stands as a keeper of things as they are, but also one that opens doors to fundamental change. This is so because for all of its faults, America is a society of laws, and so the kind of society we have is reflected in and is a product of law. Thus, if change is to come, it must ultimately be produced by law and reflected in law. So you as JDs or LLMs are about to enter or are already members of a profession that is vital to the health and well-being of nearly every citizen of America and of many of the citizens of the world at large. How you decide to use your talents and skills as lawyers will depend in large part on what is in your heart, what your values are, and importantly, whether you have the courage to keep asking questions. I believe that as citizens, you have a responsibility to keep educating yourselves. I am sure that many of you will play important roles in solving some of the problems that are causing our society, both domestically and internationally, to become one in which the promises of America's ideals are slipping away. I hope you will also remember this from the great African-American scientist and inventor, George Washington Carver, who was born near the end of the Civil War and died near the middle of the 20th century. Carver said, "How far you go in life depends on your being tender with the young, compassionate with the aged, sympathetic with the striving, and tolerant of both the weak and the strong. Because someday in your life, you will have been all of those." Class of 2014, I look forward to seeing each of you down the road and learning about all you have accomplished and what you have given back. You will always be in our hearts, and Cornell will always be your home. As you leave us now, I wish for you a large measure of joy and peace amid the inevitable pains of life. I know that you have brought joy to my life, for which I will be forever grateful. Thank you.